Frech is a Paralympic athlete. Since Ezra was 4 years old, he has spoken at schools, bringing his message that being different is okay and raising awareness and understanding for the physically challenged. Ezra was born with congenital limb differences, missing his left knee and left fibula and fingers on his left hand. At 11 months, when he started to pull himself up to stand, he received his first prosthetic leg. He quickly learned to walk and has been unstoppable ever since. You were born with congenital limb differences. Can you tell us a little bit about, your differences that you were born with?
Yeah, I was born with one finger on my left hand, and I had a lower left leg that was almost curved in towards my waist. And at 2.5 years old, I had a surgery in Boston, and the doctors removed the curved part of my left leg, and then they took the big toe that was on the former left foot and put it onto my left hand. So this used to be a former toe that was on my left leg. So I was able to, with one finger, you can't really hold much, but then you add a second finger and you can pick things up. You can hold things. I can hold my phone. I can hold all sorts of things now. Like, since I got the toe from the left leg, and then I got a stump, which could fit into a prosthetic leg much easier than a leg that was curved in like this. So that definitely made it easier to walk, play sports and whatnot. But yeah, that's a little bit about the whole background of my medical history, I guess, when I was younger.
What type of prosthetic do you use, and what was the process like of getting fitted for this prosthetic?
Yeah, right now I use a suction prosthetic with just like a simple hinge knee for my walking leg, and then I also have another leg that I use for track and field. It's a blade, has a different knee, different setup completely. It's super light, super quick and fast. But the process for getting fit for a prosthetic, we usually do like a mold to make sure that the socket fits around my leg. And so there's many different ways to do it. There's like the fancy way with like all the technology, and then like the old fashioned ways, they just take plaster and they just plaster it around my leg, and then they have a mold for what they can then make the socket with. So I haven't been fitted with the prosthetic leg in a while. We're actually planning on doing one pretty soon. But yeah, once we get the socket, we just throw the knee and the foot on there and then make it work, I guess.
So as an athlete, and when you started playing sports, were there any other athletes that inspired you?
Yeah, I think when I was younger, I was a really big basketball fan. Like, I loved basketball was my number one sport. I hadn't even started track until I was 8. So by the time those first 8 years was basketball, basketball, basketball. And a player that I looked up to was Pau Gasol, and he became a family friend of ours, and we were in contact with him. But I would say he was pretty much inspiration for me when I was younger, because he was the sweetest guy ever. He worked really hard, and so I guess in that sense, when I was younger, he inspired me a lot. And then as I got older, of course, I had different people who inspired me and whatnot, and my parents inspired me. But as far as like an athlete goes, I think at a younger age, it was Pau for sure.
One of your messages that you proclaim is being different is okay. What sparked you to get to that message, and how have you seen it affect in a positive light other people with disabilities or differences?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think as far as like quotes go, it's a somewhat basic quote, just not super like it doesn't not a lot of like wordplay and all that sort of, but I genuinely think the message that it carries is really strong. Like, it's being different is okay. And we're all different, right? Whether we look different, whether we think different, whether we act different, we all have differences. We all have challenges in our own way and hurdles and obstacles to overcome. And so when I was younger, I didn't really feel like I fit in, and I always felt like an outsider, with the people I was around. But then as I got older, you just embrace that. I'm embracing the fact that I'm different from my friends. I'm embracing the fact that I'm the only kid in my school with one leg, that I'm able to do all this stuff. And so the quote, being different is okay, just stems that like being different, like everyone's different. And there's the one thing in the world that makes us the same is the fact that we're all different. And so to be able to share that message with, people, even able-bodied people who may, look different or feel insecure about something, just know that like being different is okay. If I'm out here with one leg saying that, then someone in a wheelchair can feel confident within themselves, and someone who, maybe thinks they're not quote unquote pretty can, feel confident within themselves. So hopefully that like small sort of, not necessarily like big wordplay quote, it's just sort of a simple quote that I said is just truly from the heart, can inspire some sort of positive and confidence change within people.
I think it's a great quote. What advice would you give to somebody who uses a prosthetic and wants to or is pursuing a career or a hobby being an athlete?
Yeah, I tell them go for it. I mean, your disability should not hold you back from doing the things you want to do. In my case, I compete against, in my school track meets, I compete against all able-bodied people, and that might be intimidating to someone, but at the end of the day, I put my disability behind me in that sense, and I just compete as if I was, like any other person, like any other different person on the planet. And so, I mean, of course, when you're competing in the Paralympic system, I'm competing against people with the same disability as me. But yeah, go for it. I mean, life's too short to not try things and have fun and go for it. And if you don't like it, it doesn't work out, you're not having fun with it, who cares? Like, at least you tried, at least you went for it. And so I think I would definitely tell them that, just go for it and don't let your disability hold you back. 100%.
It's great advice. So you and your dad started an organization called Angel City Sports. Can you tell us about the organization and its mission?
Yeah, basically my dad took me to my first track meet when I was 8 years old, and it was halfway across the country. It was in Oklahoma. A tornado had just rolled through there. My mom didn't really want us to go. She was worried about something happening, and we ended up going. And during one of the events, my dad was just like, why are we coming halfway across the country to run, jump, and throw stuff? Why isn't this happening in Los Angeles? Why are we coming to Tornado Alley in tornado season to literally run, jump, and throw stuff? And that's when the idea began. And then it took 2 years of my dad working his butt off to put on, and with the great team, the first Angel City Games in 2015. And then it's just grown every year. And, we moved from one game a year to throughout the year programming and, helping thousands of athletes. And then now, we talked earlier about what we were doing outside of sport and, all this business. Like, we're totally like expanding the game and really at the end of the day, helping people with physical disabilities achieve dreams and achieve the things they want to achieve. Because we know the power of sports. I know it, you know it. I mean, even you just talking about the endorphins kick and how amazing it is when you're walking on the incline on the treadmill. Like, sport is so powerful, psychologically, physically. It does so much for you. So to be able to provide sports, and not only sports, but just like a community for these athletes where they can go to and feel like they belong. Because at the end of the day, people with physical disabilities don't really feel like they belong. They're bullied in schools across America. They feel like they're left out. They feel isolated, alone. And so to have a place, a sport venue, a competition where they can come, compete, have fun, and not feel like they're the only person there and they're like the outsider or the quote unquote different one. So to have that and have programming like that throughout the year and provide all these opportunities for them, I'm just grateful to be a part of such an amazing movement that's going to be taking off and hopefully have the stands filled in LA in 2028 at the Paralympic Games in our hometown where it all started. So
It's amazing. And so what are some of the goals that you guys want to accomplish in the future, if you have any?
yeah, I think I speak for, my dad and I and the whole Angel City organization. At the Angel City Games, we want to have tens of thousands of athletes and become the largest adaptive sports competition in the world. Because you think about the Paralympics, that's only the elite, and that's still thousands of athletes. We want to have the biggest Paralympic competition, adaptive sports competition on the planet, have the stands filled, and really open people's eyes about people with physical disabilities and provide communities for these athletes and sports and, friends, and create, memories and friendships that's going to last forever, last beyond the sports will, you know what I mean? And so to be able to provide that the goal would just be create the largest adaptive sports competition on the planet. That's the goal. Mark my words, we'll look back 10 years from now and we have tens of thousands of athletes, and Angel City is a worldwide organization helping people with physical disabilities get into sports, on all corners of the planet, we'll look back on this and say, damn, like they really manifested that. So
And I really do think that you and your dad are going to go that far. Inclusion and accessibility for people with disabilities, as well as the Americans with Disabilities Act, or under the Americans with Disabilities Act, too. It's a key issue or thing, basically, in this world that we live in for people, in order to live as able lives as possible. What suggestion would you give to the ADA or people working on accessibility and inclusion that you think would help people who are differently abled that is not necessarily already in place or in existence?
that's a good question. I mean, I think that's definitely been a lot of progress within just like how buildings becoming more accessible, for wheelchairs. But there's still a lot of, older buildings and stuff that are just not wheelchair accessible. And I broke my femur when I was in 6th grade and I couldn't walk for 3 months. So I had to be in a wheelchair for 3 months. And in those 3 months, I experienced an unbelievably difficult time getting in and out of little steps here and all that sort of stuff. And so and it was only 3 months. So I can't even imagine, the struggles that people who are in wheelchairs go through to get around accessibility within buildings, within, parking lots, within, parks, everything. And so I think it's definitely improved from where, we were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and people are really becoming more aware and buildings are becoming more accessible. But I think there's so much more work to be done within that sense. Because there's tons of buildings that are super old that aren't completely accessible. And so I think that's definitely a big step that needs to be I mean, it's already been taken, but it needs to be progressed even further, because I was in a wheelchair for 3 months and there was plenty of places where I was just like literally to get into my classroom at school, the security guards had to lift me up 10 stairs and then place me on the top. And then I would roll into class. They would walkie-talkie them and they would lift me up in the wheelchair and walk down the steps and put me back down. And that's just a small, example of, the challenges that people in wheelchairs face on a day-to-day basis, with all that sort of stuff and getting around.